Hi and welcome. I wanted to give a quick run through of Google Classroom and how to get started with that. So this first session will be how to get started with Google Classroom and the basics. So to start, if you have never used Google Classroom before, you can go to classroom.google.com, and when you first get there, it may ask you to identify whether you're a student or a staff member. You want to always click, if you're a teacher, you want to always click teacher. And then up here at the top to create a new class, that's what we're going to do first, is click the create class button. And so for here, you can see I already have two classes. I have Mr. Griffith's technology class, period 1, and period 2. I'm going to create Mr. Griffith's technology class, period 3. And I'm going to say period. Subject. Notice as I start to type in technology, hey, it's my professional development, and I could put a room number if I wanted. Okay, and I'll hit create class. So a lot goes on in the background when we create this class. It creates automatically for us this Google Classroom. It also adds a Google Calendar as well as a shared Google folder for everybody who attends. So a lot of stuff going on in the background. I can switch between my other classes by going up to this tab back here, and you can see I can switch between my classes. Click here and click here, right? So I'm going to go back to period 3, and I'm right here. And so the first thing we're going to do is go over the 3 new themes, 3 new looks of the Google Classroom. The first is the stream right here. So this is where all of your information is sorted and organized. So right here, if we have any upcoming work, we'll see that here. Any information where we're posting content to it, it's going to be here as well. Also, one of the new features is creating headers or sections or topics, what they call, for what you post in there, and that's going to allow you to better organize the content that you're posting to this. So you can move those topics all around. You can move the latest topic to the top. So it's kind of a neat feature up there. So, but this is where all that information is posted. Here you could also, if you wanted to share something real quick with your class, you could click right here and post it, and you could add an attachment, a video, a link, anything that you want there. Right. If it's going to be something like an assignment, this is probably not where you want to do this. For assignments, we'll wait till we get to the classwork section. That's where you really want to post that information. Okay. However, one of the things I really wanted to show you, which is kind of cool, is notice I had those 3 other classes. If I am going to have a huge test on Friday in my technology class, and all 3 of my classes are amazingly on the same page, I can post this information once. So we'll say big test on Friday. Right? So I could post this information, and if I wanted to post it to all 3 classes at the same time, I click this drop-down menu, and I can post to all 3 classes at the same time. Right? Now, if you're looking up there and you don't see the option to post to other classes, that's probably because you don't have those other classes created yet. I did have to create those other classes first. Okay? In addition, when I post, if I click this little triangle over here, which is called the disclosure triangle, I'm going to click that down. I can either post right now, or I can save it as a draft, or I can schedule this post. Now, for some reason, that's disabled if I wanted to do that, to schedule to all 3 classes, but I'm going to schedule to post this, and we'll say I'm going to post this on Monday, the 12th. At 8 a.m. So I could go ahead and schedule that announcement to happen on Monday the 12th at 8 a.m. The other thing that I could do is break this into groups. When I have all my students created, they're going to appear right down here, and I can individually select which students I want to post this announcement to. So eventually Google's going to have the ability to add groups right there, and you can create groups and use those all the time. But for now, you can only select individually students posting in currently right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click post, and then there you go. Big on Friday. That's weird. Clearly I did that just to test, So I could go back into test, or right into edit here, and I could say big test on Friday, save. Nobody is the wiser, right? That just magically updated on everybody's device, all right? So the other thing I can do on this main page is select a theme. So I could say any one of these themes. I can also just click random patterns. That's kind of fun there. We'll choose that one. And notice when I do that, it changes the colors up there. I could also upload a photo. I don't have any photos, I don't think, right here. Maybe I do. Could upload photos. Where might I have a photo? Some drone photos somewhere. The school. There we go. Right there. Nice big top-down shot of the school. All right, so if I wanted to do something like that, I could post that right there, and then that appears at the top of the class. One of my Grifftastic tips is if you're wanting to get kids involved in regularly visiting the Google Classroom, what I've noticed is kids will often look at pictures of themselves. So if you take a nice group photo or a selfie with the class and post that in there, they will often go back and do that. It could be a fun selfie Friday or something like that. This works well with the lower grade level kids to get them coming back and visiting a classroom, but not so much the upper kids. In fact, it's probably too frustrating, and they'll try and avoid it. Try and avoid it as much as possible if you do that. So, all right, so that's the first half of that. The next over here is the classwork. All right, so I'm actually going to jump over to people first, and we're going to add some people into this classroom. All right, and in order to add into the classroom, I'm going to jump over and bring up one of my student accounts, and then I will show you how that looks like on their end as they join. Alrighty, so here I have my student account. The student's name is Luke, and so I'm going to drag this over here, and in order to get my student to join, I can either do two things. I can actually type his name in here, and it's going to pop up, and I can click and email him. But that doesn't always work because a student can just ignore your email. So the best way to do it for us here is to go ahead and on the students in, they click join class, and then they're prompted to type in this class code. For you, the teacher, you can go up to the top where there's a gear. You can click on this class code, and it's this class code right here that you want them to type in. And instead of having to zoom in and do that and show the kids the class code, you can click this button here, the drop-down menu, and click display. And so that is just going to show that off there. And you can even click this button here, and that's going to show it nice and big. So you can leave this up as your kids file in, and they know that, hey, they need to join your Google Classroom very first thing and do that. So that's what I'm going to do now. We'll go ahead and type this class code in, and we'll say join. And while that's joining over here, I'm going to click close class settings, and I can see that Luke has joined my class. All right, so when Luke signs in, looks very similar. It says stream, classwork, and people, and he can see that he has a teacher there. He can see that there is a big on test Friday, because clearly I still can't type, so I can always go back and fix that too. So anyway, we've now added one student. A couple things to note while adding students. If I click invite guardians, I could actually type in the guardian's name here. So hey, Candy is Luke's mom, so I could go ahead and click on that and invite her, and that would be the guardian for Luke there. So if I go back to my settings and click summaries here and click example, just to see what this looks like, once a week here, as missing work or up and coming work or class activities happen, the parent or the guardian gets this, and it just lets them know, hey, this is what's going on in the class. And what's nice about this is it sends all of the classes at one time. So it says, here's the student work. It would say, here's Luke's work. And it would say for U.S. history, he's doing this. For American literature, they're doing this. And for marine biology. So It does not send one email every time there is something going on. In every class, it does this for the entire district. So everybody who's under that domain sends out an email one at a time for that guardian. So you can turn that on and guardians will get emails. Right here's another important thing if you're setting up your Google Classroom, and I would decide this right off the bat before you start adding students. So for example, Luke sees that I can't type and he just says, "What?" And then he posts right there, okay? So the deal is, currently I have this set up so that students can post and comment in class. So as I go back to my stream, I see that if I hit the refresh button here, I see that Luke has responded and said, "What?" And I could delete his comment, or I could mute Luke. Wouldn't it be nice to mute somebody in real life so they could no longer have a voice? But then Luke realizes, oh, you know what? I really don't want to know that. Really don't want him to know that I'm kind of a smart aleck, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that comment. So Luke deletes his comment, but if I hit refresh here, I see that, well, hey, Luke's comment is gone. Well, if I jump back into the settings button and I turn this feature on, it says show deleted items. Only teachers can view deleted items. If I turn that on and go back, I see that, what? Right there, it says this comment is visible for all teachers. It will permanently be deleted in 30 days. This is so that if kids decide to post things, you know, they're held accountable for their actions. So very good setting, very good feature for that. So I would leave that on if you decide to allow kids to post. However, this whole stream feature has a couple of different options. Students can post and comment. So if you're looking for a Google Classroom that has sort of a peer review, you know, peer posting where students can ask and post comments and different things like that, that's great. Leave that on the first option. If you only want students to comment, meaning they post something and they have a question on it, that's a place for them to comment back. However, they should be able to email you as well if they have a question. Or if you want it so that only teachers can post or comment, you can turn that on, and that will eliminate any comments that the kids have posted already, or at least delete them temporarily. In addition, if you decide to change your mind and say, okay, now I want to turn this back on, you could go back in and post that and turn that feature back on. So anyway, that's how that works. That's something to decide right off the bat. All right, so let's go into classwork, right? And so for the first thing is we have an assignment right here. I'm going to go ahead and click create, and you can see I have an assignment, a question, material, or I can reuse a post. Also, I have topics down at the bottom. So before you even get started, what I would do is start with a topic. And then if this is your first time ever creating a Google Classroom, I'd go ahead and start with an intro. Okay? And any materials that you have in this introduction, maybe you have a video explaining how to log in and use this, or you have some material. Let's say I have something in my Google Drive that I want everybody to have access to. Let's see, it could be our safety plans or lunch menus or different things like that. So here's a document on our announcements. I'm going to say, yep, I want my announcements in there, and we'll call this MHS, sorry, CHS announcements. And under the topic, I can have this under intro, and then I'll go ahead and post this. And so what happens is under my introduction, I have CHS announcements. And so this is just a general item that you want to have posted. There's no, you know, due date or time or anything like that in there for the students. It's just something that they have posted there as a reference. I could have another topic under here, and let's call it chapter 1. All right, I'll put 01 because say I'm doing more chapters. Okay. And then I also have the ability to reorder classwork. So for example, if I said, oh, you know what, the intro is dumb, I am going to move that down, and now we're focusing on chapter 1. I could move this at the top, and so in my stream, I could move this up, and it's going to say, all right, in the stream, oops, I'm sorry, in the classwork, chapter 1 is at the top. So I could always move this down, based on what we're doing, reorder it just to make it easier to get at for my students as well. And so if we notice when we go into the student side of things and I hit refresh, they're going to have classwork there. And it says intro. They have that announcements, but they do not see chapter 1 yet because there's no information in chapter 1. So as soon as something is posted into chapter 1, it will appear for the students. Okay. So kind of a neat thing. This is just a cool way for you to organize things. So as I hit create, let's go ahead and create an assignment. Okay, so again, I have the option to post to all 3 classes with an assignment or individual students if I had more than one student. But in this one, I actually want to create an assignment. All right, so the first assignment I'll go ahead and add will be a list of science questions that I already have in a Google Doc. And I will say answer the questions and then turn them in. All right, they are only worth 2 points, and I'll say, hey, it is due on the 16th. You put an optional time there. I'm going to say this is actually part of chapter 1. Now I'm going to click on my Google Drive, and they should be right there because that, of course, is the last thing I was working on. I'm going to say got it. Real quick before I do this, I'll show you this document. What I did is anytime I have a document that I created, and then these are my science questions, and I shouldn't have to put the kid's name on there because it's going to happen automatically, but just out of habit, I do want them to sign their name. What I do is I'm going to click Insert, draw a table, and then I can adjust this, and I could say period, and then that's to indicate that I want them to say what class or what period this is. And then what I do is I right-click in that box, I go down to Table Properties, and then I can choose a color. And so there is the color. It's just going to make it stick out. So the reason I do that is maybe I really want the kids to know, hey, you absolutely have to answer that. And so typically what I do is I am copying and pasting from information that I have. So here's just general science questions that I have, and maybe I already have some information on this that I can copy and paste, in to create this. Yes, it does take a little bit of time to get this done, but the nice thing is the content or the materials that I have, I can go ahead and customize them or make them so that, it's better suited to my students. I can adapt, I can customize it, and I can make it easier to understand or more difficult to understand depending on what I'm doing. So taking content that I already have, copying that from some other source and pasting it into a Google document, essentially I'm making my own quiz or my own homework sheet that I want them to complete. So I have this, I just opened it up in Google Docs, I typed it in there, didn't have to do save because that's what it does. So now I have the ability to post this information. And I have 3 different options when I post, and that's right here. It says a student can view the file, a student can edit the file, or make a copy for each student. All right. Now, this very last one is where the magic happens, because what it does is this will make one copy of those science questions that I have there for each student, and it'll automatically put the student's name on it. You'll be able to see that here in a second. But if I were to have a homework sheet with a set of instructions, and it's just a separate document. I wanted every student to look at this file and read those instructions. I probably wouldn't create one copy for every student, right? So I'd use this one. If I had one where I wanted the students to collaboratively fill out a document together, maybe we're making an About Me PowerPoint presentation, and every kid has their own slide, and I'm going to share this with all the kids, and every kid has their own slide to make. Right? But in this case, we're doing this. Okay, and then I can go ahead and click Assign, and then watch what's going to happen. This takes about 60 seconds, if that, and maybe longer depending on the number of kids you have in the class. But if I go back to my stream, it says Eric Griffith posted a new assignment. It's called science questions, and from the teacher's perspective, this is what I'm looking at right here. I clicked into that assignment. I've assigned it to one student. If I had more students, I could have assigned it there. And I can see currently that Luke hasn't opened it. He hasn't even turned it in. Okay, so now let's jump back over to Luke, and we'll click back on his stream, and suddenly, hey, he's noticed that, yes, Mr. Griffith posted something, and it's assigned to me. So he could add a copy to this, or he could create a new document in here, but really all he has to do is click on the document, and it opens it up. Notice what it did is it put his name at the top. Amazing. Google figured that out. They said, let's go ahead and put the name on the paper for every student, right? So I'm going to be lazy, and I'm going to copy Luke's name, and he's in period 3. So let's see, this answer the following one, delete the wrong answers. You know what? Probably should have looked. I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's not oxygen, because I know what all 3 of those things are. And yeah. Anyway, we'll go ahead and guess B there, which if flung is non-metal. Bro. Okay. I'll go with B, bro, again. All right. No idea if those are right. But anyway, so let's say I've done this, and then right up here at the top, as soon as I've completed my assignment, I can click the Turn In button. Okay? As soon as I turn it in, it says, hey, it's going to turn it in. Are you sure you want to turn it in? Yes. I click Turn In, and it says, okay, it's submitted. Now, at any point, notice right up here it says 158. That's when it was sent to the student. And if I look on the teacher side here, I'll go ahead and hit refresh. Oh, it said turned in there. I could have just waited 1 second. It said turned in. I can actually see when the student turned it in here. There's a notification somewhere that says they turned it in at that time. Right? I think if I just hover over it, maybe not. I think it happens when there are more students there. But anyway, oh, right here it says turned in at 2 p.m. So I can see exactly when it was turned in. If I set a time in there and I said it has to be turned in by 1:59, and he turned it in late, it would say turned in at this time, and then it would say late right there at the top. Okay, so I clicked on Luke's assignment. Actually, let me close that. If I had more assignments right here, I could just click on the first one, open it up, look at it, and I could start to grade. Okay, so right here I see that, okay, he put his name here, period. I see that's correct. Hydrogen's in there. Yes, that's what I wanted. So if I needed to copy this or make a comment on it, I could add a comment and say correct, if I wanted to provide feedback. But let's say both of these, let's say this one is wrong, and I'm going to go ahead and hit plus here and say, nope, it was actually Y, G, and it was actually oxygen, you dummy. Yep. So I could say this one is wrong, and then he gets 1 out of 2. Okay, and then I could also post a private comment if I wanted there, and then I could return. But here's what I want to show you. While I am grading this kid's paper, Luke's paper, if Luke goes back into his Google Drive and clicks on here, and he looks on his document, he can see that, oh, the teacher is in right now, and I've highlighted it, but I can't see any comment, right? Luke can't see anything that I'm writing right now, so he knows that I'm in there commenting on it, and he doesn't have access to edit it anymore. So because it's turned in, it's sort of locked. The student can't see you making any changes to it at all, anything like that, okay? They can see where you are at. So for example, if I minimize this a little bit more, and we'll do this right here. If I'm clicking around, they can sort of see that I'm highlighting other things right there. So they could see that's being worked on there, but they don't see any of the comments that I am currently writing in there. So anyway, kind of a cool feature. Again, when I'm done, didn't want to add any of those. Again, when I'm done, I can hit return, and it says, are you sure you want to return it? I can hit return, and take a second to return it. Okay, and from here, I could go and hit the button and go click onto the next student, grade the next student. Click, grade the next student. Click, grade the next student. Now, kind of a neat feature. Yes, it's probably not going to be as fast as you normally grade, okay? But on the other side, Luke opens up his Google Classroom, and he sees that, oh man, he only got 1 out of 2 correct. And he says, oh man, can I resubmit this if I actually go back and say if I look on this here and go down and see, oh crap, it was oxygen. I'm going to resolve it, and I'm going to say, actually, you know what? I just Googled it, and it actually is bromine, and say, nope, it is bromine. I guessed right. And then I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to turn that back in. I can click turn back in. And I just proved my teacher wrong. So I go back to my science questions and say, hey, I've already graded it. But as I'm clicking refresh here, I'm going to get a notification, oh, that, hey, he actually did resubmit it. So I'm going to click on resubmitted and scroll down and see what he says. Right here, oh, Luke says, nope, that actually is bromine. Well, I'll say, well, hot dog, you are correct. Now, if this was a document, let's say it was more like ELA, right, where I had general comments that I needed to put in there, like, hey, you need to remember a comma, place a comma here, something like that. What I can do is I can go over to this bank and I can start to add comments. So remember the comma. No, I'll just put comma. Remember the comma. Okay, so there's one question or one comment I can add, and I'll do another one just for fun. You are dumb. Okay. I'll add that comment. I'll add another one. Capitalize. Right, and so there's just a quick comma. So let's say I'm actually going through and I am grading the student's work. Right, I'm going to say, actually, you need a comma right here. So if I highlight that area and I hit a plus and I use pound, or the kids call it hashtag, right, I put that in there, all my comments appear right over there. And I can go on and just say, oh, insert that comma there, right? And oh, right here I have another comment. I'm going to hit hashtag. Yep, that needs capitalized. Quick comment. And then right down here, hit that plus again. Hashtag again. Oh, nope, you need to remember your comma. So as far as grading goes, you can actually create a comment bank over here, and that's actually pretty cool. And in the event that you don't want to get fired, you can actually go back and edit your comments, or you can delete them and say, oh, I didn't mean to do that, right? So I could go back and edit and remove my comments. Unfortunately, once you've already made the comment, you can't go back and fix it. You'd have to go back and delete it there. But anyway, so I've added a few comments, and then I can go back and return this document again. So very cool feature for the Google Classroom that's brand new added in there. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. I can see that I've already graded it, and it has been submitted back to Luke. So if I hit refresh on Luke's side, and it says, hey, he's got 2 out of 2. He's now good. He got all of his classwork in. Oops, we'll go back to Mr. Griffith's classroom there. And so he has essentially no more classwork because he's already turned that in. So nothing on his due date there. So kind of a cool thing. Anyway, that is the grading portion of it. I could have added some instructions or different things like this, but that is a really quick version on how to do grading in the classroom. Under the new classwork section. The next one is called question. So if I add a question, I could have just asked these questions directly. I could say capital of New York. Right, there's my question. And I could say answer it. And I could say actually this one is only worth 1 point. And it's a short answer. It's multiple choice. I could add multiple choices, different things like that. Or if it's short answer, I could say students can reply to each other, or I can say students can edit their answer. So when this is sent out, this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these off, and I'm going to go ahead and hit ask. And so right now we'll jump back into Luke's section. I'll close some of these tabs here. And I'll go back into my class, and I'll say that, oh, capital of New York. I don't know. And he'll click the turn in button. And so he's officially answered the question there. So anyway, how I view questions are just bell ringers or, exit slips, something that you would ask to keep everybody on task, a quick way of formative assessment, for the classroom. So as soon as you ask that question, you can get a response to everybody. So if I go back down to classwork, I can click on it, and I can see that one student has turned it in, and Luke says, I don't know. So this is going to give you a quick formative assessment solution. I could put 0 down there, and then I could hit return. So a quick way at a quick glance to go through and see everybody that's turned that in already. So also kind of a cool solution. This is a bit of a cooler demo when you have a bigger class to show off. But anyway, those are the new features to the classwork section. So you've got assignment, question, material, we've already gone. I can go back into reuse a post. And what's neat about this is if I wanted to reuse a post from another classroom, I could say, oh, I want to use this, and I want to reuse this question again, and click reuse and use that again. So let's say it's the same one, and I can differentiate my instruction there with that. So kind of a cool thing. I can add more topics. Lastly, we have 2 other features right here. It's the Google Calendar and the Google Drive. Automatically, anybody who jumps into Google Calendar has, that calendar brought up already. And we'll click on this here. And so they can see anybody's calendar that is up. Okay, so I can see all of these different calendars, and this is also Mr. Griffith's class. So they could click on this one right here and see that we have this assignment right there. So anyway, that calendar is built right into everybody's Google Calendar and automatically will appear on your calendar. Right over here it says Class Drive folder. If I click on this, it's going to take you right into Google Drive, right into the class folder, and it's going to have a copy of everybody's stuff. So if I click on science questions, here's a copy of his. Now automatically on the student side, it does the same thing. If I click this, it's going to go into Google Class Drive, Mr. Griffith's class, and it's going to keep a copy of all of the assignments for them. It's going to put them all in the same place. So currently I will have a copy of every student's, and every student will have a copy of just their assignment that they've done. So automatically does all of that stuff in the past. Really kind of a cool feature. So anyway, those are a lot of the cool features that are built right into the Google Classroom. Right here under the to-do list, you can see that for the teacher side, this is sort of the place to where you can jump in and click on to-do list, and it's going to show you what you still have to grade in every class. So if you had settings turned off, which that would provide notifications for you. So under here, under settings, you could say, hey, I never want to receive emails from Google Classroom, right? Please don't, email me at all. I'll go in and check this when I need to. You could turn those off, and then you could only go in, get used to going into your to-do list every day and just check to see what you needed to grade. So that's just a way to keep your email inbox not cluttered and use this as a really neat organizational workflow tool. So lastly, what I will show you here is, let's see if I go back to classes. Let's say it's at the end of the year, and I've been using this the entire school year. I've got all my classes used up, or I'm sorry, all my classes have students in it, and I've been posting assignments like crazy. It's at the end of the year. What do I do to clean this up? Well, what you want to do is go down and click Archive. So once you've clicked Archive, it's going to say, hey, are you sure you want to archive the class? It's going to archive it and it's going to be gone. And so what will happen for the student now is if they back out and go back to classes, they'll see that, hey, their class is gone. They've been removed from that class. They don't have the ability to go into it anymore. So if you ever need to go back into that class, so if I click on archived classes and I could click right here, I could click restore or make a copy. So I could click restore if I need to go in and check something real quick. But if I taught this class every year, the same way again and again and again, and I wanted to jump in and make a copy of this class, I could do that. I could say, actually, I'm teaching this and now it's fourth period. I'm going to go ahead and hit copy. And so what this does is this is going to take all the assignments, all the materials, everything that you have done, and we'll jump back into classes, and you can see, hey, there's my fourth period. It's still creating the class. It takes a little while, especially if you have a lot of content in there. But notice no students are in it, right? So it doesn't automatically bring back all the students when you make a copy of a class. All it does is recreate it. So let's go ahead and hit refresh one time, see if it's done creating that class. And it is. So if I click on it, now if I go down to classwork, watch right here. Notice the things that I've sent out are all in draft mode. Okay, so that means all the assignments I've ever sent out are still copied and waiting for me to do it. So all I have to do, if I'm ready to ask this question again, is click edit. I can edit the question and then I can hit ask again. So I don't have to go in and reinvent the wheel every year. All I have to do is go back in and hit copy, and it makes that class again. Or if I don't want to include this question anymore, I can just hit delete. But understand, you're going to have a ton of information in your classwork section because it's going to duplicate everything that you've ever done in there. So amazing time-saving feature. I've not seen anything else like that in a learning management system, and good on Google for getting that done. So anyway, that's what I wanted to show you today. Is an overview of how to get started, what it looks like on the student's end, and how the new Stream, Classwork, and People sections of Google Classroom work. So if you have any questions, you can email me. Thanks, and have a great day. Thanks, and have a great day.